desire was so strong. Now, there are times now that I think I want to do things, or that I kind of feel like I want to do things, or that I know that I need to do things, but I don't always feel motivated to do it. And I don't always feel motivated to get up, to go to the gym, to prep my meals, to do homework, or to even go to work. I mean, but there, at the end of the day, I know what my goal is, and I always think about, or I keep my goal in mind, you know, at all times. Is if I don't want to have credit card debt, I'm not going to spend on things that I really can't afford right now. If I don't want to gain the extra pound, I'm going to make the conscious decision of not eating the extra meal, or, you know, the sweets. So everything has to have not just an action, but in order to promote that action, I feel like you have to have that intention, and that intention comes from that goal that you have in mind.
You know, okay, I want to go back for just a second, because you just brought up a really good point. You were going through, you know, some things in life whenever you signed up to and enrolled for nursing school. Now, a lot of people, if something like that were going on in their life, they would quit. They would stop going to school, or they would say right now is just not a good time because of all the things that are going on at home, all the struggles, all the obstacles, and pretty much, I mean, that's mentally like draining for one thing to have to go to school through that. So how did you stay focused to the point where you did not stop going to school? Because I think that's huge for people, because when life happens, sometimes life does happen, but how do we keep going? How did you keep going?
That's a great question, Amanda. Sometimes I wonder how I did it. I think that it was just a matter of putting one foot in front of the other. It wasn't really thinking about, oh my God, look at all this stuff that I have left to do, or all these years that I have to do. It was like, just go to school today. Make it today. Do your assignments for today.
Oh, I love that.
Me too, Allie. Like, I can't say it enough whenever people are thinking about feeling overwhelmed by the end result, or they have this like win at all costs or all or nothing mentality. And perhaps that will be like a good start for you, but it's really hard to stay consistent and keep going when you have that kind of mindset. So I love what you're saying, and I think that it's really important that people know that sometimes it's just a matter of taking small steps. Sometimes you might not have all the time in the world to work out for an hour and a half, and it's just, you know, if you can take 10 minutes out of your day and start there, that's something, and be proud of that and just keep going. So one of my favorite researchers, and hopefully I'm not butchering this, but I believe her name's Dr. Gabrielle Oettingen, talks about goal setting, and she actually worked with nurses when she first started, and then she also continued to work with athletes and many different people. And
is she the one from New York, the one that developed the WHOOP method?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
That's what I was gonna say. So she came up with the WHOOP method, and it's an app that you can download. We'll have to get the link and put it on here. But it's what she learned is that a lot of times people come up with a wish, an idea in their mind, and it feels so good because it produces endorphins like dopamine, oxytocin, all those feel good endorphins. So then they're like, okay, cool, like I feel good about it, I don't need to take the next steps. Or they think about it, and then the thought of it is so overwhelming that there's fear, and they hold themselves back from taking those different steps. WHOOP stands for wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. So come up with what it is that you desire, come up with what you want the outcome to be. So for you, that would be, the wish was?
To be a nurse.
Well, I guess the outcome would be.
Oh, okay. Well, the wish was to be able to...
Yeah, well, I guess like the wish is to be a nurse, or the wish is to finish your degree, so that you can become a nurse, so that you can make a living on something that you're passionate about.
I think the outcome for me was to eventually work at YRMC, because back in the day I held YRMC on a pedestal, and I would drive by the hospital and literally feel those feel-good feelings, imagining myself being there. And in my head it's like, yeah, after I, done with school, I've made it,
Yeah.
That's how I felt.
Yeah. So wish outcome, and then those obstacles that get in your way. Like, what was going on in your mind whenever you were going through this? What obstacles were there?
What went through my mind? Gosh, it's so like suppressed in my memory that I don't really remember.
Yeah, I know for me, when I decided to go back to school, my biggest obstacle was money. Like, I was going to be in more debt. And I was terrified. I've always had a really, like, a scarcity mindset. Amanda. Well, you got to jump on here. When I thought about money, and I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't, it was almost like I couldn't see past the fear of spending the money, or, what if I get this, because sports psychology is a very specific niche. And there's, I don't know, it says there's an idea of what you can make, but there was no promise that I was going to be making enough to pay for that, whatever that looks like in the future. So that was a huge obstacle. So coming up with a plan of, okay, how am I going to get through this? And for me, it wasn't so much of what I can do tangible, like what I can do to produce more money. It was more like, what am I going to do to change my mindset about money daily?
Yes.
So I'm going to jump on here.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, you guys ready for this? Okay. So, this is actually one of the big struggles that I've been dealing with several people I've been mentoring and talking about business and how to overcome those obstacles, and the best way to look at it. And some people aren't going to like me for saying this, but that's okay, because I'm not here to hold the bar for anybody. But it's almost like we all have a virus. Okay, what happens whenever you have a virus on your computer? What do?
It crashes.
It crashes.
But how it doesn't work the way it can work.
Right, but what do you do to fix it?
Usually you buy an antivirus and you download the program, and then it fixes it.
Yeah, it's like a different program. You go in, you clean it out, you give it different software, right? So we all, right now, think about this. We all have a virus in our head when it comes to money, when it comes to business. So what do we have to do to change our software in our head?
We have to be in the matrix and download a program.
Well, I mean,
I know Kung
Fu. Exactly. You know what? Honestly, if you look at it that way,
yes,
it is like downloading new software. It comes from the books that we read. It comes from the information that we feed our mind, the people who we are around.
Yes.
And that's why when you know something and you figured something out and people look at you like you're crazy and stupid.
Always.
Because they have different software, they have a virus.
No, and
It's okay.
even the people that are closest to you, your friends that you think would support you along the way, it's not that they don't love you or they don't mean well for you, but they inevitably will say things like that,
And they want to try to protect you.
Yes.
And that's okay. And not everyone around us or family or, they don't have to believe the same things, because maybe they just haven't had the same, information that we have heard and that has shifted our even paradigms into thinking differently. And, it's such a big deal. And these are like a few personal experiences that I have gone through, and it was just just the awareness, the last podcast that we were talking about awareness. Right. And one of the things that I didn't realize was, it was just food at the house. And I was just like, oh my gosh, they're going to eat it all, and then I'm not going to have any. Like, why are you guys eating all the food? It was just like something silly. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
There's always plenty.
Yeah.
Or going through the drive-through of the car wash.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed, I was like, I only have like $2 left in my purse. I'm not going to leave a tip today through the car wash. And I was like, you know what? No, there's plenty.
Yeah.
I will get $2 later, but just being aware of that and realizing, no, that is a scarcity mindset, and shifting that energy of, it's okay to get rid of that $2. It's okay to let everyone in the house eat the rest of the food. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
There's plenty.
Well, Amanda, I know a little bit about your backstory, and that's why I think that this is so important. So, just so people have an idea, and we'll have to make a completely different podcast really to talk about this, but can you let people know a little bit about your history and how you, how do I say this?
Your shift in paradigm, like
Yeah.
how did you go from where you were to where you are now as a successful businesswoman?
Well, it's one of those things, and I think this is one reason why we're doing this podcast, because it's not an overnight thing. It's not where you just wake up one day and, hey, I want to be successful. I want to own my own business. It's like, no, it is not overnight. And success can be defined in so many ways, and I think that, you know, there's a reality check that our world is going to go through, because there's so many entrepreneurs right now who want to own businesses, and success, the bar is like everything you see on social media is becoming a millionaire, having, you know, all this money and all these things. And it's like, no, success can be different for everybody. And sometimes freedom is the most important thing, no matter how much money you have. So one of my biggest shifts, and we're talking about action today, was the decision and the moment that I decided to leave my first marriage. I think that was that first step, that scary step, that step that I never thought I would ever take to get out of that environment. I thought, this is where I will be for the rest of my life. And then sometimes that step, and this is